A FEMA supervisor instructs workers to skip Trump-supporting houses following the devastating hurricanes. Democrats are in a meltdown following Trump's victory. Plus, the race is on to replace Mitch McConnell. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
Okay, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with FEMA and the weaponization of government, which will go down in history as one of the standout features of the Biden-Harris administration. We've seen example after example after example, and yet it still seems to shock people who don't realize how entrenched the deep state is and how much the new Trump administration needs to seriously clean house. Over the weekend, we learned that in the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton, when people were and still are suffering, one FEMA supervisor was instructing workers to skip houses that were displaying Trump signs. That's right, hurricane relief aid being determined based on someone's political affiliation. Now, before we get to the heart of the story, here's a FEMA spokesman providing commentary to WDHN in Alabama.
Is here on the ground. We'll be here as long as needed, as long as the state needs us, and the county and the emergency managers that we work with. So I want to remind everybody that we go door to door. We knock on everybody's door, making sure that we talk to every survivor, every neighbor, every person that we go to make sure that we are here before, during, and after any events.
Okay, so FEMA knocks on every door. No one is skipped, especially not for political reasons, especially not to target Trump supporters. Well, not exactly.
According to the Daily Wire, this is a staggering story. FEMA officials, which should be helping everybody, directed hurricane relief workers in Florida to avoid certain homes that had Trump signs in their lawn. Okay, here's the report according to the Daily Wire. A FEMA supervisor told workers in a message to avoid homes advertising Trump as they canvassed Lake Placid, Florida, to identify residents who could qualify for federal aid. Internal messages viewed by the Daily Wire reveal.
Just unbelievable. According to the report, this FEMA supervisor, Marni Washington, relayed this directive both verbally and in group chats with her relief team. Now that the scandal has surfaced, FEMA officials are doing the usual chicken dance on how this is isolated. This is not systemic. It's not FEMA policy to withhold relief aid from political opponents. Even just saying that statement sounds like actions of a third world country, that they would do that to their enemies. And yet, it really happened, and it happened here. Now, FEMA is doing the next part of the dance and taking action.
By the way, the FEMA spokesperson has a statement. FEMA helps all survivors, regardless of their political preference or affiliation, and we are deeply disturbed by this employee's actions. While we believe this is an isolated incident, we've taken measures to remove the employee from their role and are investigating the matter to prevent this from happening ever again. The employee who issued this guidance had no authority and was given no direction from anyone to tell teams to avoid these homes. And we are reaching out to the people who have not been reached as a result of this incident.
Members of both the House and Senate are calling for investigations into FEMA's canvassing practices, and there is no doubt that hearings will be held. The key point is that with the new incoming Trump administration, the cancer that is the deep state and unaccountable bureaucracy must be dismantled for good. With Trump, Elon, RFK, and others, there is a real shot at doing this. All right, next let's talk about the post-election Democrat meltdown. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Okay, next let's talk about Democrat disarray and the meltdown that's occurring with the Democrat establishment and the media. During the days following Trump's beatdown of Harris and the entire Democrat platform, it's been quite fun to just watch Democrat talking heads try to explain what happened. Some get it, and some are in complete denial. Some touch on a few reasons, but fail to grasp the full extent of the disaster of the Harris campaign. Former Clinton advisor James Carville comes close with some of his analysis, where in a recent interview, Carville says that Harris's loss can be summed up in a simple comment that Kamala Harris made during her ultra softball interview on The View.
Well, if anything, Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Wow. Harris just wouldn't change a thing. She wouldn't have done anything differently. Wasn't this supposed to be a change campaign? And that was the response that caused James Carville to lose it.
And I think if this campaign is reducible to one moment, we're in a 65% wrong track country. The country wants something different. And she's asked, is so often the case in a friendly audience on The View, how would you be different than Biden? That's the one question that you exist to answer. All right? That is it. That's the money question. That's the one you want. That's the one that everybody wants to know the answer to. And you freeze. You literally freeze and say, well, I can't think of anything.
I just love it. You can feel the tension building in Carville as he's just replaying Harris's response in his head. Based on recent polling, Carville actually underestimated the wrong track number when he stated 65%. Two polls came out just before the election, which put the number of Americans who felt the country was on the wrong track closer to 75%. So the vast majority of Americans wanted a new direction, and Harris said she wouldn't have done anything differently.
And once you get in it, so we said 65% want something different. We are just not going to give in to them, but maybe the odiousness of Trump combined with the Dobbs decision, we can overcome it. Well, we didn't overcome it. But when we go back and history unearths this, it's going to be right there on The View. And I think her name was Sunny Houston or whatever, asked the question. And that's the most devastating answer you could imagine.
Carville hits on two themes that he says represented the Harris campaign, being anti-Trump and pro-abortion. That was the Harris plan, at least according to Carville, and for the most part, he's right. In the closing weeks, we heard over and over again that Trump was a fascist, a Nazi, a criminal, a dictator, a tyrant. And then it was abortion, abortion, abortion. The problem is that this isn't 2 years ago when the Dobbs decision first came out and clearly energized the Democrat base. This time around, there was no enthusiasm, and it just became part of their standard playbook they use when they know their policies are far left and unacceptable to Americans. Then they resort to abortion and racism. And now, rather than some serious introspection, people like MSNBC's Joy Reid are reaching out to left-wing experts who say to just shun Trump supporters.
You know someone voted that way. Do you recommend, just from a psychological standpoint, being around them? We got the holidays coming up.
So I love that you asked this question because, there is a push, I think just a societal norm that if somebody is your family, that they are entitled to your time. And I think the answer is absolutely not. So if you are going to a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood, and it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why.
Just crazy. But the Democrats refused to get it. More than even trying to demonize Trump, the Democrats tried to demonize the American people. Election after election, we're called deplorable, irredeemable, and this time, garbage. The Biden-Harris administration gave us open borders, sky-high prices, foreign policy failures, and told us to re-elect them. Then they called us names when we said, hey, we don't like this direction. Things were better under Trump. In that light, you can see why the election turned out like it did. A sweeping mandate for putting America and Americans first. All right, next, the race to replace Mitch McConnell as the Republican leader of the Senate is on. Now, because of the results of the 2024 Senate elections, not only will McConnell's replacement lead the GOP caucus, that person will also be Senate Majority Leader. Here's how the race is stacking up.
In terms of potential replacements for McConnell, we're looking at people like Senator John Cornyn, Senator John Thune, Florida Senator Rick Scott, who is also making a play for this role. And look, you know, it's important to note that these races will be conducted, or the election will be conducted by secret ballot. John Thune today saying that he thinks it's best that this should be a decision that's left up to the senators rather than to have former President Trump, now President-elect Trump, weighing in on this.
This secret ballot vote among the current GOP senators is scheduled for Wednesday in Washington, and the three candidates have been jockeying for support. What's crucial to know is that only one of the three represents a commitment to advancing Trump's America First agenda, and that's Rick Scott. Cornyn and Thune are swamp creatures who have at one time or another blasted Trump in his efforts. We don't need that. We need to clean house. We have an opportunity given to us through a mandate by the American people, and Cornyn and Thune represent the opposite. Here's Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin regarding Rick Scott.
I'm a big supporter of Rick Scott's extraordinary individual, highly successful in business, ran a company that employed, the 8th largest employer in America, highly successful governor in Florida, been a real colleague of mine in the Senate. He's serious. I think President Trump hopefully will endorse Rick, want to work with Rick, because President Trump wants to do big things. We need bold leadership in the Senate, and Rick Scott can provide that leadership.
Through a leaked memo that was posted on X by Benny Johnson, which you can see on my X page, Senator Thune supposedly has 24 commitments lined up to Cornyn's 18 and Scott's 11. Coming out in the Scott camp, in addition to Senator Johnson, are Senators Haggerty, Lee, Marshall, Moreno, Paul, Rubio, Schmidt, and Tuberville, and J.D. Vance. I encourage you to call your senators and encourage them to vote for Rick Scott. Flood the phones and emails of these senators and get them on board. The last thing we want is for business as usual in the Senate. And next, here's some rapid-fire headlines from around the country. First, let's talk about Barack Obama, because apparently Obama, who thinks he's the man, is now worried about his legacy. As reported by the Post-Millennial, Obama biographer David Garrow says that Obama, quote, has been and remains extremely concerned and nervous about his historical legacy, and that has taken a big hit with Trump once again triumphing. Maybe next time Obama might not try to shame the brothers into voting for someone just because she is black. Next, CNN is reporting that senior Pentagon officials are already working to subvert the Trump agenda. According to CNN contributor Scott Jennings, meetings have been held within the Pentagon bureaucracy on how to, quote, deal with Trump. And this is exactly what the president faced during his first term. That's why it's more important than ever for agencies that report to the president to enact the president's agenda. If you can't do that, then get out of government. The American people voted for the Trump agenda, not a deep state unelected government. And finally, a plastic surgeon in Seattle is vowing to do all his trans surgeries before Trump can stop him. As reported by the Post-Millennial, Dr. Javed Sajan posted a series of photos on social media bragging about the surgeries he will perform. The report points out that Sajan performs these permanent mutilations on children, which is beyond grotesque, and it's an industry that soon-to-be President Trump has pledged to ban. Friends, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, today's show's one sheet is available to Patreon supporters using the link in the description. The one sheet gives you the links to all the videos and stories used on today's show, so you can dive even deeper into each issue. And with that, our next show will be Wednesday evening at the usual time. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.